It is the season finale of Harvey's Hot Takes with Bryan Hayes. The NHL schedule was released on Wednesday. Bryan, Mitchell Marner and the Las Vegas Golden Knights will be in Toronto on a Friday night. He'll make his return to Toronto on a Friday night on the second half of a back-to-back. And both the Leafs and the Golden Knights have the Saturday night off. Bryan, how much of a miss was it for the NHL not to make this a marquee Saturday night matchup?
It's a massive miss, Jay, but it's a completely predictable miss. This is how the NHL operates. You're in show business, and yet it's almost like they're trying to bomb, right? This is like the musical The Producers. Did Mel Brooks come up with this scheduling? Like, are you trying to bomb what should be a massive blockbuster night? It had to be on Saturday night. It should have been on Saturday night. And again, this is about show business. This is about building it up. It's the biggest hockey market in the world, and this will be the biggest story in the regular season in Toronto, bar none. And I don't believe we're going to see a homecoming like this for a Maple Leaf, possibly, at any point in my lifetime. Really, I don't. I mean, Matt Sundin was very significant. I remember when Wendell Clark returned after he was traded for Matt Sundin after that 94 season. But those were beloved players where it was nothing but celebration when they returned for the most part, right? It got a little bit sticky when Sundin left, but that was for different purposes than what Marner represents and when Marner left. I mean, I think this is going to be very contentious. I think it's going to be a powder keg in there, even though it will be a Friday night. I still expect that to be the case. I think it's going to be crazy and loud, but this should be like a heavyweight fight. This is right on a tee for you if you're the NHL to build this up. And, big fighters, heavyweight fighters, they don't fly into Vegas the night before. They don't get there at midnight the night before the fight. They're there for days. And that's what should happen here. Marner and the Golden Knights should have been here on Friday after that game in Boston. Have a practice, have a morning skate, have Marner speak with the media multiple times, and build it up because it's such a great, great story. The homecoming of Mitch Marner, what it's going to represent. And I get it why the Golden Knights wouldn't want that. I get it why Mitch Marner wouldn't want that. But I don't understand why the league wouldn't want that. I don't understand why the NHL wouldn't see this as a massive platform. And Saturday night, that's the night. That's the big hockey night in Toronto. That's the big night for hockey in the country. It's not Friday night. So I think it's a massively missed opportunity. Unfortunately, it's very, very predictable, but it should have been built up. He should have been here for days. It's going to be a crazy evening, but it would have been, I think, that much crazier if you allowed Marner and the Golden Knights to get in a day before, settle it back into the market, build it up, have multiple platforms, have multiple press conferences, and do it on Saturday night. And now I think there's a very good chance, the Golden Knights won't skate on that game day on Friday. And there's a chance Marner's not going to speak to the media, period. And again, he has spoken to Vegas, and he has to placate that market. That's his new market. I get it. You got to speak to those fans. You got to introduce yourself to those fans. But he's a Toronto guy that played 9 years here. He was within the organization for a decade. I still think he owes Toronto and the fans some answers. Why did you want out? How long did you want out? Why was Vegas the answer? And I'm not convinced we're going to hear from Mitch Marner at any point. And in large part, that's because Mel Brooks is doing the scheduling for the NHL.
Shout out to Mel Brooks, still alive, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Let's check in on the first place Toronto Blue Jays at the All-Star break, Bryan. They're tied 6th most wins in baseball with 55. 2-game lead over the Yankees in the AL East. Tied for first in the majors in batting average, but 19th in home runs, 22nd in ERA. They've thrown the 5th most strikeouts in baseball over the campaign. The trade deadline's 2 weeks away. We've been talking about it. How important, in your opinion, Bryan Hayes, are the next 2 weeks for the continued rehabilitation of Ross Atkins' image?
What a platform this is for Ross Atkins. What an opportunity for Ross Atkins to completely redeem himself here. I mean, we talked about him in the front office in general consistently through the winter months leading up to the season, even the way they were playing in March and throughout April, about what's going to happen with the future of this front office, and how is Ross Atkins actually going to explain how they continue to be in the position that they continue to be in, considering the way they played last year and even coming down the stretch the year before. But you're at the All-Star break, they're a first-place club. Right? Like, the players have gone out there and done what they're supposed to do. And if you're Ross Atkins, this is the beauty of sports. You can always find a way to redeem yourself. And I think if he has a great trade deadline, he can and will do that. Furthermore, if he has a great trade deadline where he outperforms his counterparts in New York with the Yankees, in Boston with the Red Sox, in Tampa with the Rays, and he puts his team in a position to continue to hold on to that top spot in the AL East and possibly end up with a top 2 spot in the American League where they can avoid the wild card round altogether, that will be massive for the rehabilitation of Ross Atkins, his reputation, his legacy in the city, his resume moving forward. And it's not only about who he could acquire over the next 2 weeks, and I think it's imperative that he does that. You just referenced the stats. I think they need arms, right? I think ideally you'd love to find a, top of the rotation starter. I'm not convinced that's going to happen, but at least one big arm out of the bullpen, if not multiple arms in the bullpen. I think they have the weapons to go out and purchase those guys and find them. They just got to have the stones to go out and do it. And that's on Ross and company, and I think they can, and I think they will. But furthermore, Anthony Santander, we talked about him last week. I don't know when he's going to return, but if and when he does, if he can supply pop, that's another boost for Ross Atkins. And what he did last offseason, if Max Scherzer stays healthy, which he has been relatively healthy the last few weeks, he stays healthy. What if he's pitching in the playoffs and pitches really well? All of a sudden, you look back on that signing, and at the time, we were very cynical. Certainly when he was on the 60-day IL, I was very cynical. But if he pitches well down the stretch and performs in the playoffs, that's worth all of $15 million. That's another check for Ross Atkins. So it's a massive, massive opportunity. The trade deadline and then the other guys that he acquired last offseason, if they can show up and they can pop coming down the stretch, all of a sudden, when it comes to the GM rankings in Toronto, Ross Atkins might be at the top of the list.
Which is something I never thought would happen ever in our lifetimes, and yet the possibility is very much there. It is fascinating how sports can be. Finally, Bryan, the Open Championship gets underway Thursday morning right here on TSN. From Royal Portrush in Northern Ireland, the introspective Scotty Scheffler is the favorite, followed up by Rory McIlroy. Bryan, how much pressure is Rory under to perform in his home country of Northern Ireland this weekend? And do you think he ultimately pulls off the victory?
I'm not convinced he's going to win, but I do think there's a lot of pressure on him to make sure he doesn't embarrass himself like he did back in 2019, the last time it was at Portrush where he missed the cut, famously missed the cut. He's had one of the more fascinating seasons